Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be talking about Brian Robinson and if he could overtake Antonio Gibson as RB1. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. Trying to hit 8,000 subscribers, so please help me get there. Also with that like button and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. Also, follow the Twitter, first link in the description. Now, let's get right into the video. So ever since the Washington Commanders drafted Brian Robinson in the 3rd round, I've seen a lot of Washington Commanders fans saying that they think Brian Robinson could overtake Antonio Gibson as RB1. I'm not saying I agree with it, and I really don't agree with it this season, but we're going to discuss the possibility and break down Brian Robinson a little bit more in today's video. So of course, as you guys know, the Washington Commanders drafted Brian Robinson in the 3rd round of the 2022 NFL draft with pick 98 that they got from the trade back with the Saints. And I think it was a little bit early for Brian Robinson. I saw a lot of people projected him to go in the 4th, but you know, it was a 3rd round compensatory pick. So basically it's like one of the last couple picks of the 3rd round. So it's really like an early 4th round pick. It is what it is. Like, you know, if he ends up balling out, it was a fine pick, and you know, it wasn't really that much of a reach. So I have no problem with the pick. I actually like the pick because I really like the player. You look at, you know, some of his measurables. He's 6'1", 228 pounds, 23 years old, and of course played for Alabama. Real quick, let's look at some of his stats. Was a 5-year player at Alabama, took advantage of that extra year of eligibility because of the pandemic, and he produced at a very high level this past year. So 271 carries for 1,343 yards, 5 yards per carry, which is solid, 14 touchdowns, 35 catches for basically 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had almost 1,700 or like 1,650, scrimmage yards from scrimmage, 1,639 actually, it's right there, and 16 touchdowns. So he was an absolute beast for this Alabama offense. And, before then, he just, they've had great running backs like every single year. So, he wasn't able to become the lead back because, they had Najee Harris, Josh Jacobs, and others. But, he consistently had, the last couple years before this year, had 91, 96 carries and 63, 24. So the good thing is he is experienced, but it's not like he had like 250 carries every single year of college, where he's already kind of had a bunch of carries, and his career might not be as long as others. No, he has had a decent amount of carries, 545, but not as much as a lot of these other guys that are being drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round that, were 3-year starters, 4-year starters that had 250 carries every single season. So that is definitely a bonus with him. He's a strong runner, runs over people. I think we'll get into it in a little bit. His 40-yard dash was like a 4.5, a little bit over a 4.5 40-yard dash. So not blazing fast, but it's solid. It's solid especially for his size, like over 6 foot and a big guy. Like, he is built pretty strong. Like, that is definitely impressive right there. He has one of his strengths, he is great in pass protection, which is what we're going to need. If you want to be on the field on 3rd down, you're going to have to, be good at those blitz pickups. J.D. McKissic is solid at that. That's an area where Gibson does struggle a little bit, especially early on in his rookie year, but he's definitely gotten better at it. But Brian Robinson's probably going to do that right away at a pretty high level. So that's another bonus with him. Again, able to run through people, break some tackles. He's able to put himself in positions where these linebackers are making arm tackles, aren't able to wrap him up like, some other running backs. And again, it's harder to take him down because of his size. I really like him. And, he's able to offer a little bit as a pass catcher, not so much, but if you really need him to, he can. I don't really see the need for us to use him that much as a pass catcher, just because we already have J.D. McKissic who can do it, and Antonio Gibson who can do it. Definitely, was a receiver in college. We'll see if he's able to put it together this year in terms of pass catching. So I don't see the need really that much to use him as a pass catcher, but he has that ability to do so for sure. Averaged around 9 yards per catch this past season for Alabama, close to 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So definitely has the ability to be for Carson Wentz to throw on the ball. So that is definitely something to consider right here. And you guys can see a pass play, from him. And he has solid hands. He has solid hands for sure. I believe this is how, throwing it to him right here. And you said it was a little bit of lag right there, but he's able to catch it. So just a little clip from minicamp, but showing his, ability to pass catch out of the backfield. And we'll see if, because if he is on the field on those third downs, maybe with, J.D. McKissic, and picking up some blitzes, he might be, he's probably going to get some pass catching opportunities for sure. So Brian Robinson, in my opinion, I do not think that the Commanders drafted him to overtake Gibson as running back 1, especially in year 1. What I think they drafted Brian Robinson to do is to be a guy that you can trust in those short yardage situations at 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, or any goal line work or any work from 0 to 10. That's a guy you can automatically put in there, and he's going to be very, very good in that spot. That's but that's not why you draft the guy in the 3rd round, but that is part of it for sure. Another thing is that this guy, if Gibson does go down, because Gibson has had injury issues. Like his rookie year, he missed some time because of a turf toe. This past year, he only missed 1 game, and that was because of the virus, but he was playing banged up pretty much all year. He had a shin injury, a shoulder injury, a hip injury, he had a toe injury. I mean, he pretty much had every single injury you could have, and it was really hurting him. And, he wasn't as effective as we thought he would be, and he still had good stats we're going to get into in a little bit, but his efficiency wasn't very good, and that's partly because of his injuries, in my opinion. And, he got lucky, really. He didn't miss any games. There's going to be times where, if, the older he gets, the more of these injuries he gets, the more time he's going to miss. And if he does miss time, I love McKissic, and he can come in there 3 to 5 carries a game and, provide some big plays for you. But he's not a guy you want to give more than 5 carries to in a game because, first off, that's not his strength. And also, it's just, he's not built for that. He's probably going to get injured if you do that. So that's where a guy like Brian Robinson comes in. If Gibson does get hurt, or if he continues to struggle with those fumbles, Brian Robinson can come in right away and get you 15, 20 plus carries. He did it in his final year in college, and will be able to produce, for you at a pretty high level. But if Gibson is healthy, and I hope he is, I still think Brian Robinson will be used a ton in his rookie year. I think you don't want to give Gibson as much of a workload as you did in this past year, especially, in that stretch where we won, those 4 games straight. I think it was a 4-game win streak where we beat the Panthers, the Raiders, the Seahawks, the Bucks. Antonio Gibson had I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was over 20 carries a game. That was his average. And that was with him kind of playing through injuries. I don't know if that's the best way to use him, just because, again, he's getting injured all the time. So what you could do, let's say instead of getting those 20, 22 carries a game, and again, that was only over a 4-game stretch, but that's when we were winning. That's, there's a winning formula right there for this team, and it's to run the ball behind the good offensive line we have. So you can give Gibson maybe, let's say, 13 to 17, 18 carries a game on average, and then give Brian Robinson 8 to 12 carries a game and see how it plays out. And if Antonio Gibson is, balling out and he looks really good, maybe you increase it a little bit. But if he's not looking so great, then maybe you decrease it a little bit for him and increase it a little bit for Brian Robinson. So those are my thoughts. Let's look at Gibson last year. 258 carries, over 1,000 yards, average 4 yards a carry. So down definitely from his rookie year, which was 4.7, and had 7 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns. So, pretty productive this year. Over 1,000 yards is a great accomplishment. And he was injured all year. It's really unfortunate that he was injured all year, because I want to see what he could do, playing healthy. And you saw that in that Giants game. He had 5 fumbles. That was the big thing right there. The big issue. He had 6 total fumbles, lost 4 of them, and a lot of those fumbles were huge fumbles. That fumble in the Chargers game inside our own 5-10 yard line. That killed us, because we were up, I believe, at that point, and then they scored a touchdown off of that fumble really killed us. He had he had other fumbles in the red zone, also had other fumbles inside our own 20, and you just can't do that. So if that becomes an issue, then that's when, and I think we should probably do it anyways, but like inside our own 20, 0 to 20 yards, like you can start off with Gibson, taking that role, being able to do it. But if he starts having fumbling issues, I think that from 0 to 20, you should have Brian Robinson take those carries, and then from our end zone to the 20, you have Robinson take over, and then from the 20 and beyond, you can have mostly Gibson until you get to the red zone, and then I want Gibson back in because, fumbling from, 20 to the other 20, it obviously sucks, but it really sucks when you fumble inside your own 20 or in the red zone. And Gibson did that multiple times last year. And here's the thing, though. He didn't really struggle with fumbles too much in his rookie year. He lost 2 fumbles. One of them, really, it wasn't a big deal. It was like the last play in the first half. So really 1 fumble that he lost in his rookie year. And, maybe it's a little bit of an outlier this year, for going from 1 to 6. Maybe it's a little bit in the middle. Maybe it's like 3, and, it's not great, but you can live with 3 fumbles a year instead of 6, which he had this past season. You can't live with that. Like, if that continues, Gibson will not be our RB1, and that's really where I could see Brian Robinson overtake Gibson is if, Gibson continues to fumble and continues to have injury issues. But what I hope to see is kind of a 1-2 punch, like kind of what you saw with Alvin Kamara and, Mark Ingram. Alvin Kamara, kind of that do-it-all guy, the guy that can pass catch but also be a good runner. And then you have Mark Ingram who, he can pass catch, but he's more of that runner that you need. And, Gibson, I forgot to say, also had around 300 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. So, and I wanted to see this right here. So you look at the comparison between these two. This is just athletically with measurables and stuff. So Antonio Gibson definitely beats him in that department. Brian Robinson's got the advantage in height, and Gibson's got the advantage in weight, which is crazy. He's built. He's definitely built. Bench press reps, Robinson didn't do it, not sure why. And Gibson had 16, which isn't great. And then you look at the 40-yard dash. Gibson's definitely more explosive. And, you look at everything there, and vertical jump 30 to 35. So Gibson definitely has an advantage, but, who knows? Athletics aren't everything. I'm excited to see what Brian Robinson can do for us. I think he will be a very, very solid, running back for us this year. Brian Robinson will. I think you're drafting a guy in the 3rd round. He can't just be Peyton Barber. He has to be much more than Peyton Barber. He has to do what Peyton Barber did at that level or higher, plus be a solid guy on 3rd down that can, pick up blitzes, which Peyton Barber also did. A guy that can pass catch. Peyton Barber couldn't really do that. But also add 6 to 7 carries that Peyton Barber didn't have, where he's actually producing for you. And I think it's just a great insurance policy. And if Gibson does go down, because if, let's say we just had Gibson, McKissick, and Patterson. I like Patterson, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm trusting him to take 15 to 25 carries a game when Gibson's out. Now you have a guy that I really think can do a pretty good job for you if Gibson does go out. So this year, I think Gibson will be RB1, getting around 15, 16, 17 carries a game. And then I think Brian Robinson will be RB2, getting around 8 to 12 carries a game. I think we're going to run a lot this year. And, as long as Gibson stays healthy and he doesn't really fumble, I think he will be RB1, and I think he'll have a big year for sure. And and if he does fumble a little bit, Brian Robinson, if he takes advantage of that opportunity, maybe eventually he could be RB1. But ideally, in a perfect world, you have 2 really good running backs at your disposal eventually, with Gibson as RB1A and Brian Robinson maybe as RB1B. So that eventually kind of a, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram deal. I think that would be great. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. Let me know what you guys think about Brian Robinson possibly overtaking Gibson. Peace, guys.